YouTube Live, where I talk and I drink coffee. Thanks for joining me, all my live broadcasting, attendees, as well as my replayers. Thanks for joining me if you're catching this on the replay. YouTube Live coffee talk, completely random stuff. I told you I'd start doing more of them. It is Halloween. For those of you catching this on the record, it is actually the day. It is Halloween. So all of y'all are probably, I don't know what you're doing on Halloween, because thanks COVID, not really sure what everyone's doing. I did schoolwork. Big surprise. Most of the tribe knows I'm currently in nurse practice. Went back to school to get my DNP. I have been a master's prepared nurse for the past 8 years. Master's prepared nurse practitioner, sorry. And went back and I'm finishing getting my DNP. School still sucks. Not sure if you knew that or not. Sucks. Got a couple of the tribe members in the live feed already. Boom. We have, of course, Stephanie. Thanks for hanging out. And A4 22%. One of these days I'm going to remember this person's name. They're going to tell me, and then maybe I'm going to remember it. I'm probably going to have to write it down, because A4 22% seems to be quite the dedicated tribe member. They always seem to hang out, always seem to show up in the live broadcasts. So this is my way of saying thanks. So I was a guest on a podcast last night, recorded a podcast with a panel of healthcare providers. It was a bunch of nurse practitioners and some docs, and we talked about NPs and full practice authority and a bunch of other stuff. 3 hours worth, and it went by really fast. And I gotta tell you that I recorded that episode after working 4 days in a row, and I had been up since 3 a.m., came home, and sat in front of a computer for 3 hours with these strangers who were pretty darn cool. Up here in the Northeast, it's getting cold, it's getting miserable. Hunkering down. The COVID is going to make things very interesting, I must say. So the panel and myself, all of us, we're talking about nurse practitioner. Well, let's talk about salaries. Everyone likes to talk about salary. Like, what should you get paid? And we're talking about whether or not you feel... And when I'm extrapolating this to just any healthcare professional, it doesn't have to be just nurse practitioners or physicians. But when you graduate from nursing school, when you graduate and you go for that first job, maybe it doesn't have to be your first job, when you sit in the interview and you interview for this job, do you have a number in your brain? Like, you sit down for the interview, and at some point during the process, whether in preparation or when you're sitting in the chair or when you're touring the facility, do you have a number that floats around in your brain? And where did that number come from if you do? Because I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've interviewed for a lot of jobs. Now, I haven't had to interview for a job in 8 years. Pretty proud of that. But when I interviewed for this NP job, I didn't have a number in my brain. I didn't have a number circulating that was like a hard stop. Like, if they didn't give me that number, I was going to say, yeah, sorry, thanks, no. And I wonder if others have similar experiences. Do you do the market research? Do you talk to, or get on Google and figure out what everyone's getting paid in that area of the world? Now that might be where you're living, where you're moving to. Like, do you have a number in your head that is an automatic, it's like a hard stop? Like, if they don't give you that number, then you don't take the job? I mean, in times like we're in now, I don't think a lot of people have the ability to pick and choose. So if you're offered a job, I can only imagine that for the most part, unless it is offensive and like bottom of the barrel, that you more than likely would end up taking the job. So why is it that we always talk about the importance of pay and salary, yet we rarely say no, or rarely say, this is what my asking price is, this is what my accepting range is? Why are we not saying no? Why are we saying, I'll take the job if this? I imagine it's supply and demand, that like in your current position, many take that in that first job, you don't really get a whole lot of negotiation. Someone offers you a job, for the most part, you're going to take it, period, because, well, you need a job. We got a couple more people in the live feed. Kitty, thanks for joining us. Ashley says she's definitely turned down a job due to salary. Ooh, well, strong work. I wonder, was the, Ashley, if you're willing to answer, was the salary so offensive, so bottom of the barrel that it was an absolute no? Or was there a threshold that they weren't willing to meet? Did you negotiate? Did you have that number in your brain before you showed up for the interview? Because I'm going to be honest with you, almost every job that I've taken, the pay was meh. It wasn't horrible to the point where it was offensive, but it also wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm rolling in the dough now. So I'm just, I wonder if it's a cultural thing. I wonder if it's a economic issue, or is it we're not confident enough to actually create a number in our brain. Stephanie says, have I ever considered teaching a course for nursing school? What kind of a course, Steph? Yes, I have. You mean like create my own course? Because I actually did try that and it failed miserably, like a ball of flames, miserable. So if that's what you're asking, yeah, I'm not going to do that again. Steph said yes, she had a range that she was willing to work with, but they were basically unwilling to negotiate. They just kept repeating that their offer was firm. Well then, absolutely, congrats. I'd have done the exact same thing. Fuck them. You gotta be willing to negotiate. I mean, or you gotta feel as if they find you valuable enough that they're willing to negotiate. Now, that's a whole other conversation about, what's an acceptable level of negotiation, and maybe you need to widen the range. But entry level salary, it's gotta be difficult. So Steph says, me becoming a nursing professor for a college in general, nursing school. So Steph, you probably haven't been around, or you haven't seen some of my stuff. When I talk about me going back to school, that's the entire reason I'm going back to school to get my doctorate, is so that I can teach in a university setting, so that I can teach anywhere that has a program. Right now, with my master's degree, I can only teach in master's level education programs. I could teach in any level of nurse practitioner or advanced practice nurse program, but only for master's prepared, because that's the degree I have. As a master's prepared nurse, I can't teach doctorate level students. just kind of doesn't jive that way. And as of this moment in time, a lot of nurse practitioner programs are transitioning to a doctorate level degree. So I didn't want to limit my options, and getting my doctorate now as part of what I jokingly am calling my 5-year plan, because in 5 years I have no idea what my world is going to look like. I have no idea what the economy will look like. I have no idea what my job will look like, and I want to make sure I have options. And this was the best time for me to go back and get it before I was so far out of school that I never wanted to do it, or that it was going to be exponentially difficult. And you know, this is in my 8th year as a nurse practitioner, and I grossly miscalculated and underestimated just how difficult going back to school was really going to be, because having to retrain your brain to get into school mode, yes, I have forgotten how difficult that is, and the amount of work that is involved in doctorate level courses. Yeah. So anyway, A4 22% says that you could always ask for a raise. That would be true, but you would have to make sure that that's something that is an option. You have that conversation in the interview. I guess, like Ashley, you gotta, there's gotta be a bare minimum amount of pay. There's gotta be a point where you say, no, that's way too low. I can't take this job. It's insanely too low. I can't pay my bill. I can't live. I can't, can't sustain my life with that kind of a pay. So that's a really good point. And you still have to tell us what your name is so that I can write it down. Sooner or later, I'm going to write it down and I'm going to remember it. And if you're going to tell me it right now, I don't have a pen and paper. So maybe later. Steph says, am I able to teach at a bachelor level program for nursing? I can imagine having you. Well, thank you, Stephanie. Yes, I can. And I actually will be in the spring. Stephanie asked if I, in my current role with my current degree as a master's prepared NP, can I teach at the bachelor's level? Yes, so you can go in that direction. You can't go up, you can go down, and that sounds really bad as I say that out loud. You can't teach above your degree, you can teach at or below your degree. So I could teach master's, bachelor's, diploma program, RN, LPN, CNA. I can teach all of those levels. And there are nuances to all of that. Every school probably will be a little bit different. But at the end of the day, if I want to have as many options as possible and to let the sky be the limit, I need to have my doctorate. It's just that simple. And I'm going to have a lot to say when this is all said and done, when it's over with. I'm going to have a lot to communicate with the tribe in regards to my experiences and my feelings about nursing education as a whole, the structure and the finite details of nursing education and what we focus on, because I think it's horribly misdirected. Does anybody have anything they want to chat about? Otherwise, I'm going to see if I can pull up a old Hey Sean topic question here while everybody's online, because, I'm supposed to be prepared and I'm not. But I have several days off. The end of the semester is coming, and I need to focus. I need to batten down the hatches. I have a couple more weeks left. Actually have 3 more weeks left before the semester's over, and then I get a very, very long break off. So one of the things that the podcast that I recorded last night we talked about was relationships between nurse practitioner and physicians, and it's interesting to hear how different perspectives change the dynamic of the relationship. So more to come on that one. For those of you that, and I didn't mention this, it'll be on the RNMD podcast. RNMD podcast, and it's hosted by a nurse that I met on Instagram, and her name is Abby. She goes by Nocturnal Nurse. You may or may not follow her. If you're not, you should probably go look her up. And I really hope by now, y'all, seriously, tribe, you should know by now that I do a lot on Instagram, and I hope that you're following me on Instagram. And if you're not, I think it's time. Just the way it is. So, one of the things that we talked about in that episode was talking about NP diploma mills and how there are programs out there that they are completely constructed to basically churn out diplomas. They're not, the quality of the program is horrible, and it's a for-profit organization. And the question came up, how does a nurse know what to look for? How do you tell what a program is when a program is a diploma mill? And I didn't have a good answer to that one. I wonder if maybe the tribe has a better answer, or when Abby's podcast episode comes out, maybe she'll get some feedback on that one. One of the things I know that is a cornerstone for a quality program is, are they accredited? And probably the first question you have, or the response you have, is, gee, Sean, aren't all NP programs accredited? No, they are not. Not all NP programs are accredited. If it is not accredited, you are in trouble. Yes, as Lady T is saying, these NP diploma programs have 100% acceptance rate. There's absolutely no criteria that stop you from getting into the program. Doesn't matter what your grades are, doesn't matter. There's no hard requirements. Now, back when I went into NP school, you had to have a certain number of years of experience to even apply. And these programs that we're talking about, and they're mostly online, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, most of these programs are online programs, and they'll allow anybody in as long as you have the money to pay for it, or you take out the loans to pay for it. So we had a couple more people jump on the live feed. We had Julie and Lady T. Lady T was the one that commented on the 100% acceptance rate. I don't know about you, but if you enter in a school for to advance your education, and there's no criteria for acceptance, or it's like one of those, car loans that everybody gets approved no matter what. I mean, your interest rate's going to be 50%, but we'll accept anybody. It's kind of the same thing, at least it's a very rough and loose description, is that it's literally the same thing. Like, there's got to be some criteria. I mean, think about it. CRNA programs, there is strict criteria you have to meet in order to get accepted into a CRNA program. NP programs should be the same. There should be a strict criteria, whether it be grades, GPA, or an entrance exam, or, I mean, geez, I can't think of anything else, but there has to be criteria. I mean, otherwise, how do you sift through the garbage? And that's horrible to say for a profession that I represent, but how do you sift through the garbage? How do you sift through the bottom feeders that are there just to make $1? How do you sift through the individuals that are going to enhance the profession, that are going to contribute to the growth of the profession, and who are absolutely going to improve patient care? So it's just it's a wishy-washy thing. So Julie says, how do you balance life in graduate school? I feel as though all I do is study, and now I'm welcome to grad school. Sorry, Julie, that's just the way it is. You signed up for this shit. This is just the way it works. Find me a grad student that doesn't feel your way. So your question is, how do you balance it? You do it in the most purposeful way possible. You have to figure out how to prioritize your mental health. You're going to have to come to a point where you say, I have to take a break. I have to take a mental holiday. Today, instead of studying for 10 hours today, or whatever that number is, I'm only going to study for a quarter of that time. And the rest of the day, I'm going to spend either letting my brain completely shut down and I'm not thinking at all, or I'm going to spend the rest of the day with my family, my friends, people that I haven't seen, doing a hobby, something that enhances your calm in some way so that you can survive what you're going through. I will use my emotional bank suggestion, that my emotional bank mantra that I have told to the tribe over and over again is that you have to make deposits so that when life decides to take a withdrawal out of your mental capacity, after your emotional capacity, you have the ability to respond. So you have to continue to make deposits into your emotional bank, whatever that is, and it could be small things. Remember, it's not an evenly balanced plus and minuses, one penny kind of thing. There are certain things in your life that enhance your happiness more than other things, but you also have to recognize the simple things. Getting excited for a good day, a nice day with nice weather. Getting excited for having a day off. Getting excited that you got to sleep in. Getting excited that you didn't hit the traffic that you normally do. Recognizing that you got a good grade. Maybe you didn't get the perfect grade, but you got a good grade. You studied and you got the result that you wanted. When you're at work, you made that save. Or you didn't lose your shit when someone popped off on you, or when you had that horrible patient that was treating you horribly. You were able to rise above that and to maintain your calm. Being able to work with your besties or people that you like being around. Having a good laugh at work in the moments in between, the cracks in between the chaos. I may have to start using that. Being able to enjoy the cracks between the chaos is literally how I survive everything I do. Like today I was doing schoolwork, and when I was done, I sat and watched one of TV shows that I wanted to watch. I Netflixed and chilled for like 40 minutes. And it was glorious. I loved it. And I always do the social media thing. I love doing the social media thing. That puts deposits into my emotional bank. So the first step is recognizing it, what you have done. So the next thing you have to do is to start making deposits in that emotional bank. Quit trying to tame that line. Forget it. The chaos, being exhausted, never being able to catch up, always being tired, that's never going away. It'll go away when you graduate. So there you go. Because when I was in my MP program for 2.5 years, it was utter exhaustion. It was madness. Why in the world am I doing this? I could be sleeping. I could be hanging out with my family. Instead, here I am studying. Is this really worth it? Is this what I really want to do? I'm almost positive I've shared with the tribe, and it's an old video, that my first semester of NP school, I was ready to quit. Totally ready to quit. I actually had to do a list of pros and cons of why I'm doing this, and had a heart-to-heart conversation with my wife over and over again so that I could make a educated and purposeful decision on what was best for me and my family, which included my wife. Because going to school, whether maybe you're single and you don't have a house, and maybe you're just it all depends, but everyone's life, there's responsibilities that we all have to fulfill. And one of the things that you cannot do, one of the things that is non-negotiable is you're not going to be able to get through nursing school at any level by yourself. You're going to need support. Whatever form that comes in, you're going to need support from your family, your significant other, your friends, your classmates, your co-workers, strangers on the internet, crazy loudmouth bald guys who think they know a thing or two. So, that's what I got to say about that. Got a couple more minutes before we shut down the live broadcast. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask? Any topics that they have come across recently? 2020 kind of sucks. I don't know if you guys care or saw the news, but Sean Connery died today. Of all days, Sean Connery dies on, was it yesterday? I saw the news today. So he must have died yesterday. I have to go look at the internet. But anyway, that's sad because I was a huge fan. I'm an old guy. I was watching him back when I was a kid. So I've seen all of the movies he's been in, and his accent is just infamous. Come on, we all know that. I'm gonna close it out by looking up one more topic because nobody's got any questions. So a lot of tribe members always ask me about lab values, like how do you remember all of these lab values? And quite honestly, it's usually memorization, but it's also correlation. So when I was in entry-level nursing school, I didn't use the fishbones. I don't know if anyone knows what the fishbones is. Gonna have to Google that because there's no way I can show you on YouTube Live. Fishbones, that is a way of writing down all of the lab values that a nurse would need for shift report. And it has to do with a CBC, a BMP, with some, you could add LFTs to it if you wanted to. And memorization of lab values is literally just repetition and nothing else. If you're trying to come up with some kind of memory tool to figure out how to remember lab numbers, it's usually pointless. You literally have to just memorize them. I mean, after doing it for so long, couple months, years, you start to memorize them. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't memorized all the lab values that I see on a daily basis. I still have to look them up. I still have to use that reference table that might be in the chart, or it might be in the computer, or you might be Googling it, or using your most recent app. Doesn't matter. But you should be able to memorize, I don't know, the fish bones is the minimum you should be able to memorize, so that you can write down the fish bones and you can look at it and in a snapshot without having to overextend your brain. You should be able to go, oh, that's abnormal. Oh, that's high. Oh, that's low. And then you can go from there. I think it has everything to do with repetition. A lot of the things that we do in this profession is learned through repetition. Just die hard, grind it out, repetition, over and over and over again. How do you write a good assessment? Over and over and over again. How do you do a good physical assessment? Over and over and over again. And it isn't that the seasoned nurses have any kind of secret. They literally have just been doing it long enough that it becomes second nature. Everything becomes second nature. This is why I still say it to this day. Experience trumps everything. Experience trumps everything, because there are so many things in our profession that you're not going to learn out of a book. You're not going to master or become an expert at out of a book. It's grinding it out, repeating it every day. And then at some point along the timeline, without you knowing, and it's kind of like a poof kind of a moment. It's like you go from having to think about something to it being a reflex. You have to go from looking at a hemoglobin and thinking about a normal value to looking at a hemoglobin and just reflexively knowing, "Ah, we're fine." And on that note, we're going to call it. Thanks for hanging out with me, for all of the tribe members that were here during the live feed. If you caught this on the replay and you're still with me, thank you. Don't forget about the Discord that we have. We have the Nurse Tribe Discord where there's some interesting conversations going on. We have about 50-ish people. It's growing nice and slow. Several topics where you can talk with other tribe members and you can ask me questions, you can post questions, and I don't know, just a place to hang out. We have the small Facebook group, but I want to make sure that all the tribe members from all over the social spaces can hang out in one place. Check it out. Easy to find. Look up me. You can look for the link that goes to the Nurse Tribe. It's in all of my social media channels. And as always, make sure you check your own pulse first.